So I've been wanting to make a response to video to one of his claims. Um, Vincent James claims that the left doesn't get censored, only the right does. There's a little bit of truth to that, but not really, if you want to be specific. And I already mentioned this in one of my... I actually commented on this. If I can find it. Yeah, right here. I mentioned that that they do get censored if they are part of these two categories: the old left and left-wing nationalists, and especially if they espouse any of these positions, you know, economically left, anti-war activist, anti-Zionism, or the anti, you know, anti-white intersectionality politics that is so prevalent now. They tend to, they do tend to be deplatformed, or worse. It's just not given as much attention as the right wing. Like, there's this commenter that, I know this one's anecdotal, but this is just to kind of show that there is censorship to left-wingers. And there's also another comment I agree with. I mean, this one is a bit closer to the truth than just left versus right, as Vincent likes to go with. Yes, I do agree with his premise that yes, this censorship thing is a bad deal. I just don't agree with his position that only right-wingers are getting the short end of the stick. I think everyone is getting the short end of the stick in the long term. This comment right here kind of goes into that. Yeah. Oh, and when he was making his example, he meant these guys, RedTube, which are what I would call, personally, part of the new left. The new left meaning, like, they're pro-intersectionality, you know, when it comes to the social aspect of politics, I think we can all generally agree they're a little bit ridiculous on. But when it comes to the economic stuff, I would say they're pretty good at, but the social stuff, not so much. That's the basic, that's the basic info of what RedTube is, essentially. There are some leftists that are good. I would give this guy a shout out, Neo Jacobin. This guy here, amongst others. Those are the guys I tend to think are legitimate. I may not agree with everything that they say, but they are closer to the truth. They are what I would call closer, if not absolutely, part of the old left, if not a left-wing nationalist. Since he was just talking about right-wing censorship, I thought I might as well talk about left-wing censorship. But before I do that, I came across this article recently, and they were talking about censorship. This was from, what was it, April? Yeah, it was from April. And they listed, this came across to me as interesting. The left case, there are actually some left-wingers who are actually against deplatforming. And I found this interesting. Especially, Red Elephant, he will tell you that the left wing across the board is pro, deplatforming. And, the right wing isn't. Well, that's not exactly true. Both sides can be pro deplatforming in various degrees, but not all of them. And this is just a good example of this. So the 3 principles, as they said. So 1, the decision to deplatform is controlled by unaccountable private entities. I think that's pretty true. Especially if you read that comment earlier, if you paused the video, he was talking about private entities, and I would probably give these 2 as examples of as unaccountable private entities, deplatforming certain opinions. There's also, of course, the consequence of deplatforming, which creates multiple public spheres. And this could bite them later on. Down the road. I think that's common sense for some of us. This is gonna, I would say the social leftists, this is, what I would call people like BreadTube. Social left, new left, and even the economic right. Economic right, I will give an example as Conservative Incorporated. Them and their censorship towards people like Nick Fuentes. It's going to bite them in the ass later on. I think, as we've seen with the Nick Fuentes Charlie Kirk incident, I think this will be the case here. Best case scenario. Because YouTube originally, what made it so popular in the first place was that you were able to broadcast yourself. You were able to make your own channel and just, talk about anything, whatever it's politics, pets, nature videos, cooking videos, gaming videos, that sort of thing. But now, due to recent events and all that, they have been cracking down on censorship, and this is not going to work well with them. We got alternatives like BitChute, but as of right now, BitChute is not entirely there yet, because they still need to optimize, but it is still a good alternative. Anyway, I think I might as well start giving some examples. Yes, in history we had sorry, I have not scripted this, but when I was just watching his video, I wanted to say it reminded me of this. You should watch this, by the way. It's the what I would say is the ultimate consequence of liberalism. Economic right, and social left. I might make a video explaining what I mean about those later, but I want to keep this short. So, I do suggest watching this. Yeah, I will be going into the censorship part. This is just one of the ways they censor people. Oh, this is the left stuff. I will get into that shortly. But before I do that, I think those of us on the right we already know about internment of Japanese Americans. You know, we already know of how, how they suppress right-wing movements, infiltration, division, stuff like that. And some of you might be aware of this. Not everyone knows these because they're not really talked about as much for various reasons, but these have happened. This is an example. You could say right-wing censorship, but you could also say just in general. Now, getting to this kind of now to get to across the board. There was this executive order, which was used to deal with potential right-wing dissonance. Sedition Act 1918 during World War I. This was used to repel left-wing dissonance and right-wing dissonance. Those who have declared, who hold an anti-war statement. Now I'm actually getting to the actual censorship of the left. I mean, that stuff was just, I would say more or less across the board, if not just for right-wing censorship, but these are, I would say, definitely left-wing censorship that he tends to ignore or downplay, I would say. I think a major example is the Red Scare. Or, the case dealing with these two Italian anarchists, who are part of the left. Just a few hours of deliberation, and they were already found guilty of murder. It's been argued that this was not a just case. Could be an example of political repression, but it doesn't end there. For those of us who are familiar with labor history in America, this could come into mind. The Great Railroad Strike of 1877. CONTELPRO. They went across the board with everyone, and yes, including those on the right, but they especially went against the left. I should also mention, how we went over to other countries and installed right-wing regimes. He doesn't talk about this, but this is stuff. That's already public knowledge. that you can easily find in academic sources and amongst other places. This is a good example of that. This is the same thing, but from a leftist perspective. You can go look at here. And this is another web source that really goes into it, but it's specific. It's more specific in Latin America. I don't know. Just hearing him talking about, oh, there's no left-wing censorship, and if you say there isn't, or if you say there is, then you're an idiot, or he said something that got blanked out. I can't read lips. I don't know what he said, but it was derogatory nevertheless. And it's not an argument, I would say. There is such thing as left-wing censorship. It's just not talked about as much. But there is. I'm not saying that there is, that there's no such thing as right-wing censorship. There is, definitely. And it's horrible. And, especially those who are, pro-culture, pro-nationalist, pro-white, even, But it's also a problem for those on the left, or even third position. Especially for special folk like left-wing nationalists, who are, who can be open, sympathetic to nationalism, culture, race, but they're also open to the working class, and they're constantly, just shoved down because of their positions. And this is a good example of such things. I don't know. I just had to get, and oh yeah. There's another, this one's kind of like a side thing, but this is another example of right-wing censorship. But yeah. I just gotta get that out of my system, because I gotta get that out of my system, because when people say certain things that are just not correct, or they don't tell the full story, I had to kind of butt in and say something. So I'll just leave it at that. I'm I am sorry that this is a little rough. I might edit this later in the future. I just got to get it out of my system. Bottom line, there is such thing as right-wing censorship, but there is such thing as left-wing censorship, and we should be against both. Essentially. Just out of principle, pro-free speech and all that. Oh, if I ever get banned on YouTube, I do have a BitChute account. You can just find my username. My username is still the same, American Futurist, in BitChute. My videos are there as well. Just gotta put it out there, just in case, if this channel gets deleted, and I will link my BitChute account in the description. So without further ado, I wish you a good day.